know, but today we're here with this motherfucker. Enter the Vortex, or Cohen. Y'all know who I am, and you all know what this series is off the name. We're bringing it back. How you doing tonight, Cohen?
I'm still alive.
I can agree with that. So why don't we start with a pretty good topic. What's holding you back from the person that you want to be? And we can actually kind of break that into two very different questions. One of them being, who is the person that you want to be? And then the big question at the end. So who is the person that you want to be? What do you see yourself as?
The model me that I want is a very, I guess, open and talks to everyone kind of person, I guess.
Alright.
Like a very social person.
See, I can understand why you would want to do that. And a stream like this, it's not a place to judge. When we do these streams, or when I do these streams with guests, it's never a place to judge. It's always a place of acceptance and understanding. Trying to understand as well.
Yeah.
So, trying to be a very open person who is an extroverted person, it's definitely something that I can understand and relate to. But at the same time, it's something that I can't relate to. So, what is holding you back from being that person?
Well, I actually used to be that person, and I want to get back to that. Throughout middle school, in the second half of 6th grade, I started to get severely bullied, and I kind of, got rid of my old personality to try and avoid it and just hide in a shell.
So what you did is you built a shell for yourself.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting point. I mean, I forgot to kind of explain how this works before we started, but typically, the way that it goes is I ask you a question, you can either ask the same question back or choose a different question to ask me.
Okay.
So, it's usually how this goes. I ask a question, you answer, you can ask the same question or a different question and I answer, and it just kind of goes back and forth like that for the entire stream.
Got it then.
So, it's your turn.
If you had the model version of yourself, what would you be?
The model version of myself, well, I'm going to go about it in a different way than you did.
Okay.
The version of me that I want in my story is the defender, the hero, I guess. The hero version of me is someone who kind of fights for what's right, whether that's morally right or ethically right. And honestly, the one thing that holds me back from being that person, and as much as I hate to say it, it's the people around me. And not to say that, the people around me aren't great, because they are, but it's not always easy to get the people around you to understand what it is that you are trying to do and how you need to go about it. So, that's honestly what's holding me back from being that person. But to be honest, I think I'm already there. It's just more about developing it.
Okay. I think that makes total sense, the way that you explained it, actually.
Usually I try to make a level of sense that works.
Yeah. Well, alright then.
What is one of the biggest goals that you have in your life, and what progress have you made towards getting them?
Okay, so I like to think that I think far ahead in life, and then I recently realized that I haven't really thought farther than my early 20s. But the biggest goal I've set for myself in life right now is to become a Marine, which isn't really setting the bar too high, but it's not setting it very low either.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I hate to interrupt you, but serving your country is not a very low bar at all. But it is not, the high bar that everyone makes it out to be.
Yeah.
It's a kind of middle of the road bar. And one of the things I used to be told was, joining the military is the male's version of becoming a stripper. And that is never actually the case, if we're being honest with ourselves here. Joining the military is a very high honor, and the honor is you get to serve your country, to protect and serve, and to defend. But what progress have you made towards becoming a Marine?
I've reached out to a couple of recruiters and talked with them about the opportunities I could have. And I've been working on my physique and making myself less overweight.
Well, those are very big strides towards your goal. And I'm sure there are many more great strides that come, but those are very good strides towards your goal. It's your turn.
So, could you ask the question again? I'm having a bit of a brain fart right now.
What is your biggest goal, and what steps have you made towards attaining it?
Same question to you. What's your biggest goal, and what are you doing to get towards that goal?
My current biggest goal, although it changes often, currently the large goal of mine, also we're waiting on you for poker, but
Oh, shit, are we?
the biggest goal I have right now is to become an English teacher in Japan. That is my big goal at the moment. My goal is to teach students abroad about how to speak English, and ultimately that goal may involve me immigrating and leaving the United States, which would not be it wouldn't be fun to the people around me, but it would be because I'm benefiting myself and growing. And right now, I re-enrolled in college, I changed my major, I'm going back very slowly, I'm working to support myself and my ambitions, and eventually I will end up there. It will not be anytime soon, but by the time that I make it, I will have made it. Also, I just got a straight and I didn't bet on a pair plus. I hate my life. But, it doesn't matter. We both win.
Yeah.
I just made 4 bands. Let's go.
Nice.
Hell yeah. But, that's one of the big things. That's my big goal.
Alright.
Let's move to, human, and the human nature.
Oh dear.
What is the best way, in your opinion, to explore the human nature? Is it psychology, physiology, or biology? Or sorry, psychology, philosophy, or biology? What is the best way, in your opinion, to explore the human?
Well, I feel like on that kind of topic is a kind of a case by case basis. There's no one thing that works the best every time. The best way to explore a human's nature is to know them at least a little bit first, and then try and go off of what you think would explain them the most. If I understand the question correctly, at least.
You're kind of getting there. I mean, it's a very different question to answer. It's a very difficult one.
Yeah.
You're up.
So I guess the same question to you because I didn't understand it. So I think if you explained your answer, I could probably give you a better answer afterwards if I understand it more.
The best way to explore the human mind definitely has to be through psychology, although they all have their ups and downs. When you look at the human biologically, you see science, you see nature, and you see creationism, right? But what you fail to see is the human nature and also the human thought. Philosophy looks into the human thought, but not the science behind it or the thoughts, or rather the thoughts of the individual. Focuses on the thoughts of the macro, not the micro. When you look at psychology, you look at the micro, but you miss out on the macro of it. So you look at the thoughts of the individual, but with psychology you can never look at the thought of the large. You can only look at the thought of the small, because when you start to look at the thought of the large, it becomes too convoluted and too twisted to be designated.
Shit. Well, there you can see the difference in college education and not even halfway done through high school education.
Alright, I guess, yeah. who are you really as a person? Who is the you that is behind the mask?
Oh, fuck. Alright.
It's a very tough question because it involves opening yourself to someone who you may not feel comfortable revealing yourself to, which is perfectly acceptable. So if you don't want me to answer that question, I would completely understand.
No, that's a perfectly appropriate question. And just to clarify, I feel completely comfortable around you.
Well, again, it's better to make that statement known rather than unknown.
Yeah. This is gonna be difficult to describe. I'm kind of like a collection of different people in my head, kind of.
It's a completely normal way to answer the question, believe it or not.
Like,
To say that you're an amalgamation of different humans and people, also it's you.
yeah, oh shit. Just, it's kind of a really complicated question. That's a good question, though. Damn. Like,
Would you prefer an example?
no, I'm trying to figure out. I know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to put it in words that another human being can understand.
Give it a shot.
Like, depending on what situation I'm in, my personality and the way I'm thinking shifts.
I can understand that. You have
If
different
I'm in-
personalities for different situations.
Yeah. If I'm in like a
I have a flush.
oh fuck yeah.
This guy's a
If
straight
I'm in-
Jesus.
Fuck. I got destroyed. If I'm in like a situation where like somebody's opening up to me or something, or somebody needs help, I turn into kind of like a person that
You turn into a guardian.
pretty much, yeah, like it's kind of like the older brother of the situation, pretty much.
Of course.
Except if somebody's being like an asshole to me or trying to hurt me,
Become very cold and rugged.
more than cold, I turn into fucking Satan's older brother. Turn into a fucking asshole. I'm not proud to say that. I know that from experience with how much I've gotten in fights and shit.
It's definitely not something you want to be proud of. It's on you.
Yeah. Alright, thank you. You gotta pull it.
It's definitely not something that you should be proud of. But at the same time, it's who you are behind the mask. And that's something that is very hard to change on you.
Alright, well, I wish I could like add more cool questions to the thing, but Jesus Christ, you keep coming with really good questions, man. I gotta hear your answer to this one.
Who am I behind the mask? Well, there's a multitude of answers to that question. So what do you want? Do you want the psychological answer or do you want the philosophical answer? Because I have multiple.
Would it be possible for you to like boil them down into simpler points and put them together a little bit, or is it like a hard-boiled one or the other?
It's a medium boil, one or the other. Like if I have to kind of pick one and I can incorporate some of the other into it. But typically it's one point is focused on the most, while the other point is kind of built in slowly.
Okay, I'd probably go for the philosophical.
Philosophically, behind the mask, I am an average person. And everybody says, oh, I'm so average, I'm so this, I'm so that, but no one is really just average, Not everyone is this grand, amalgamation of the next Antichrist or the next Jesus themselves. Everybody likes to think that they are much more intelligent than they are. They like to inflate their own ego, and they like to act larger than life. Philosophically, I am the amalgamation of a very underwhelming individual who likes to be extravagant. And that's a very contradictory point. But when you start to add in the psychology of human thought to that answer, it starts to make more sense. So psychologically, I'm an extravagant, outgoing person, but philosophically, I'm a very inside, hiding person. Also, I just hit the circle button. I'm gonna kill myself. But no, back to the point. Philosophically, I am a very internalized person. However, psychologically, I am a very external. It's on you. But I guess that's the best way to boil it down simply without becoming a hard-boiled one or the other.
Okay. I think I kind of see your point there.
Go ahead. I'll let you think of a question.
Okay. This one is more of kind of like a situational question, which I hate to say it, but I've been in this situation, and I'm not going to elaborate on it because I really don't feel like sharing that with the public. Somebody has threatened another person near you. You're not close with the person, but they're around you quite often. And you've hurt that person that was threatening the other person, and they're on the ground begging for mercy. What would your next action be?
Allow me to kind of try and understand the point you're making. You're saying someone hurts someone that I care about. I then retaliate against that the aggressor. Yes. And the aggressor is on the floor. Okay.
Yes.
If they're on the floor begging for mercy, my answer would change. Also, this man had a higher pair than me. Fuck you. But my answer would change depending on the severity of how they are versus how the victim is, to be honest. Okay. Like, if the aggressor is...
less vague for you.
Well, no, because I like that question. That question tells a lot. But if the aggressor is less injured than the victim, but is still in the same state as the victim, like on the floor begging for mercy, you don't stop. You make them feel the pain they inflicted. However, if they are feeling the same level of pain or more, you break them mentally, further than they already are. Because begging for mercy is one of the final acts the human body has before engaging a fight or flight. Except fight or flight has typically already been activated by that point. Okay. By breaking them mentally, you ensure that the event could never transpire again to anyone. Versus if you stop before they've learned, the chances of them doing it again are very high. And that's the thing. You have to really look at it that way. Most of it is based on psychology. Most of what I know is based on psychology and how I respond to situations. So there's going to be a lot of psychological answers and some philosophical, but I try to spice it up where I can.
Oh. Well, alright then. Alright, your question, you want me to answer the same question, or you got a new question for me?
I got a question for you.
Alright.
I'm trying to find. I have a list here of questions that I typically try to get in.
Okay.
I have to find the right one for the situation though, because the situation is very different. Because typically we're closer in age.
Yeah. So I don't mean to cut you off or anything, but I'm not going to be able to be on for much longer.
That's fine.
So if you have any important questions, I'd get them out of the way if I were you.
Is what we perceive as reality is what we perceive to be truth the reality, or just a construct of the mind? Can our minds incorrectly interpret reality, or is reality just truly subjective?
Okay, if I understand this is a really good question. I'm going to try and see if I understand. If I can understand the questions, I'm going to ask you kind of a question to clarify it. Are you talking about like a point of view kind of thing, put it in lesser terms?
Well, sort of.
Alright, okay.
I could always ask a different question though.
No, it's fine. If I understand the question, it's... Fuck, how do I put this in normal human terms? Like, are you talking kind of like... Say the question again?
Is what we perceive as reality truth, or is it just a construct of our mind? And if so, can our minds correctly interpret reality, Or is reality actually just a subjective thought?
I
This is a
think
thought-
reality
In
is-
general layman's terms, sorry to cut you off, but in layman's terms, the question is based in the thoughts of the small versus the thoughts of the large.
Yeah. I think that reality is more of an interpretation of someone's mind, at least to that person. And in that person's interpretation, if you interpret a certain situation in a certain way, then if someone has never heard of that situation before and you explain your interpretation to them, odds are their interpretation of that situation, never hearing about it before, will probably not differ much from yours because that your situation is the first thing they've ever heard of.
All right.
One more. I have more to say. Just give me a second.
But while Cohen's answering the phone, which I assume is what he's doing, I'd like to thank you all for watching this or tuning in if you are live. But more importantly, I'd like to apologize for my absence. I've been dealing with some things. I will try to make this a recurring series, whether it is with Cohen multiple times or whether it's with guests like it used to be. However, Cohen will end up being a recurring character on this show or on this channel. Whether it's we're doing different games or we're having these conversations, there will always be him.
Yay.
Don't worry, you're not going anywhere. So, you said you had more, right?
Yes, I did. I feel like a way someone might have been raised can kind of change the way they perceive a situation. Like,
Ooh.
the perfect way I have to think in my mind, since I'm such a history nerd, I guess, is someone growing up in the time when Nazi Germany was a thing. If you grew up in Nazi Germany, you probably had a negative view of the Jews. You might have never even known a Jewish person, but you were raised to think that they're bad. So, even if the majority of the world thinks that they're just another person, the small group of people you're with thinks it is, and that's the only opinion you've ever heard before. You'll probably have the same opinion as everyone else. But your opinion can change, but it'll be very difficult for it to. Do you understand what I mean?
I do, actually.
Yeah, that's about it.
Alright. So, ball's in your court.
Alright, Shit. Let me think here a second. Alright, here's one.
Ooh, a different question. I'm interested.
Yeah. This one's kind of like morality and the what was the other words?
Moral and ethical.
Yeah. This one's a moral ethical one, kind of.
Alright.
A guy who's a guy is brought into a court for thievery. He stole some shit from a federal building.
Alright.
That's what he's stolen, and he stole bread from a supermarket that happened to have a federal section of the building, so it's considered a federal building. He says he stole it for his family. What do you think is the appropriate action?
Morally. So I'm going to answer in two parts. Morally, the man has committed no crime. However, you cannot morally conclude that there was no crime for only one reason. Because morally, you cannot look into the family. Because when you start to look into the family, you start to lose yourself. You start to lose sense of what happened. So morally, you cannot judge him. However, you can morally agree with his actions or disagree with his actions. Ethically, the man stole. There is no tiptoeing around that. The man committed theft. Whether it was in a supermarket that was connected to a federal building, or if it was just some regular supermarket down the street. The man stole. End of point. So morally, you cannot truly make a final decision. However, ethically, there is a singular decision. If that makes sense.
Exactly. No, that makes complete sense.
I want to go back to the question I asked you about reality.
Alright.
Because that one, it creates a very different aspect.
Okay.
When you start to think about the idea of reality being perceived by two different people, one of my favorite quotes comes from the series Naruto. Obviously, this is gonna sound really shitty. This one deserves a bit of highway driving.
Okay.
So come with me.
I'm fun with it. What's it
This question, it's a very, the thing is, it's a very different one. But the quote is, "In this world, wherever there is light, there are also shadows. As long as the concept of a winner exists, so too must there exist the concept of losers. The selfish desire of wanting to maintain peace causes wars, and hatred is born to protect that of which we love." The second part of that quote, from the same man, is, "Wake up to reality. Nothing ever goes as planned in this accursed world. The longer you live, the more you will realize that in this reality, only pain, suffering, and futility exist." Versus the point of the main character Naruto Uzumaki, which is, reality is something that you can shape in your hands and guide. So when you look at the 2 points like that, you kind of can understand that reality can very well be seen differently by two people. Because, like you said, it's all about environmentalism. Where you grew up. How you grew up. What you did as you grew up. Those all build into who you are and how you perceive reality. So personally, reality to me is a very bleak existence. Reality is not something that is very easily changed, nor is it something that should be tampered with. Because when you tamper with reality, and you try to tamper with fate, the cards are always against you. The dealer will always win. The world will only try to prove that to you when you try to change it in your favor. There is no such thing as rigging the cards of fate to be in your favor. Ever. Because the cards of fate are set. You can, however, try to choose in what order those cards are turned over, but you cannot swap those cards for new ones. It's like Tarot. You are given 5 cards. You cannot change what those 5 cards are, but what you can do is change what order they are flipped up in. And what you do with the cards that are flipped up and handed to you is what reality is. That is what you do. The grasp of reality never changes, but the course of it does. You could flip up card number 1 or card number 5. Both cards, card 1 and card 5, their meaning will not change whether you flip them up first or second, because the cards are the same. But if you flip them at the right time and at the right place, everything will seem to start to change around you. So it's more about what you do with what you have, and how you do things with what you have and how you have it, that allow you to change your perception of reality, and ultimately, in most futile ways, change reality and change the cards. If that makes any sense.
You just fucking blew my mind, dude.
I could keep going and blow it even further.
Go for it.
So the idea of fate is a very interesting one. When you're born, most people like to believe that destiny is predetermined. But in most cases it isn't. Very seldom is it predetermined for you. In fact, almost never. Because that is... Humanity has something deep inside of it known as the will of the soul. And that's, you know, a very anime, weeb, bullshit type term for it. But that's what the will is. That's what someone's will is. It's the will of their soul. It's how much fight they have in them. And that is something that is predetermined when you are born. How much fight you have. Now, you can expand how much fight you have through trials and tribulations, but no matter what, that fight will eventually run out. So if you use up that will and fight an unnecessary fight, you're wasting it. You're bleakening your reality because you think that something is necessary when it ultimately wasn't. Like if I tried to pick a fight with someone because, you know, they believed in a certain political candidate that I didn't, I'm wasting my time. And I'm wasting my will. I'm wasting my willpower. And will is a very strong object. You see it very often. You see will most often used with the term fight or flight. Willpower is what is basically adrenaline and fight or flight. When you trigger your fight or flight, you're triggering your will. You're digging deep inside yourself and realizing, hey, I want to get out of this alive. Regardless of what happens, I need to get out of this alive, right?
Yeah.
That is the idea of will. Like if you get shot in the chest, your will to survive, if it does not outweigh the desire to die, then you will pass. But if the chances of you dying are very high, but you have the will to fight and you want to fight, you are more than likely able to survive because you simply wish to. And I know that sounds very shitty and stupid, but when you look at it from a perspective of how it makes sense and how it works, you can kind of see it. You see it in people who get stabbed. They could just die right there in the street and bleed out. Or they could fight to survive and get help and get to the hospital. Granted, they still have a very high chance of death, but they've made it to the point where they fought to survive. And it's something very key because of how enigmatic and how anonymous the will of the soul is. It's not something that you just know. It just shows up. You don't decide. Like, something decides for you. And it's not ever you. You know?
Yeah.
But will also is what's in the cards. Like I said before, those 5 tarot cards. You don't know what those 5 cards are until they're flipped. You cannot change the cards you're dealt. Ever. But you can choose the order in which they are flipped. But indirectly. You cannot directly decide, you know, oh, I'm going to flip this card. Because that would entitle that you know what the cards are. You know what happens. But you don't. What you do know, though, is that you have a desire, you have a goal, and you need to find a way. Those cards will flip over time. Over time, you will learn, and you will open those cards, and you will understand. It's part of growing and existing and learning. So it's never a matter of, I wonder what I should do. It's, I know what I need. I don't know what I need to do, but by God damn it, I'm going to figure it out. That's what it is. Always.
Huh. Well, I've got to go, but thanks for letting me on. Like, this has been a very good learning experience and a good experience to talk.
Of course. We'll probably find more time to do one of these soon, but whether it's this or we, do it a different way or we just stream again, but it's not a late night talk, I'm sure the viewers will definitely see you on this channel sometime soon.
Here's to hoping.
Oh, there is no hope. It will happen. We will find the time. Trust me. But thank you for agreeing to join the show tonight, and honestly, it was a very interesting conversation with you. It'll definitely need to happen again. Definitely at least one more conversation. But you may become a very recurring person, whether it is a recurring guest or just you show up in every stream that we do for a late night.
Well, I have to go 14 minutes ago, so I'll see you later. Thanks for letting me on.
No problem.
Have a great rest of your night.
You too.
Later.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you viewers for watching. Please let me know what you think of him and if he should stay in the future. But in the meantime, I am probably going to go grind Destiny 2 out a little. But thank you, and enjoy the rest of your nights, mornings, afternoons, or even your car rides. Enjoy that cup of coffee that you were drinking. Enjoy that vodka. Enjoy that whatever you were drinking. Finally get up off the toilet. Finally, brush your teeth. Whatever you were doing, just remember, time is short. Time is something you cannot get back. Use it wisely, and don't give it up to the wrong people. Because the wrong people will take your time and ultimately take your money. Thank you.